What happens when you humiliate the wrong person? Victoria Chin thought she was just doing her job when she laughed at a messy-haired customer in torn jeans. After all, the Cartier store on Rodeo Drive wasn't for people who looked homeless. The $150,000 watch he wanted to see cost more than most people's houses. "Are you sure you can afford it?" she asked with a cold smile, loud enough for everyone to hear. The man's face turned red. His hands shook with embarrassment. Security cameras caught every moment as he walked out in shame, while other customers whispered and pointed. Victoria had no idea she had just insulted Elon Musk. She had no idea that her cruelty would be seen by millions of people online. And she definitely had no idea what he was planning to do about it. Because when you tell Elon Musk he can't afford something, you're not just questioning his money. You're challenging his ability to make the impossible happen. 3 weeks later, Victoria would stand at that same store window, watching in complete shock as the most impossible thing she'd ever seen happen right outside her door. What Elon did next didn't just leave her speechless, it changed the world. The December sun felt warm on Elon Musk's face as he walked down Rodeo Drive. His old jeans had holes in the knees. His black t-shirt was wrinkled from sleeping at the Tesla factory. Again, his hair stuck up in different directions because he forgot to comb it that morning. He looked nothing like the rich people shopping around him. Elon stopped in front of the Cartier store. The windows sparkled with gold and diamonds. Inside, he could see fancy watches that cost more than most people made in a year. But Elon wasn't most people. At least, he used to think so. The glass door felt heavy as he pushed it open. A bell chimed softly. The store smelled like expensive leather and perfume. Everything was clean and bright. Too bright. "May I help you?" The voice belonged to a woman with perfect hair and a perfect smile. Her name tag said Victoria Chun Store Manager. She wore a black dress that probably cost more than Elon's car payment. If he still had a car payment. If he still had a car that wasn't falling apart. "I'd like to see a watch," Elon said quietly. Victoria looked him up and down. Her smile got smaller. "What kind of watch?" "Your most expensive one." Victoria's eyebrows went up. She looked at his torn jeans again, then at his messy hair, then at his old sneakers with the hole in the toe. "Sir, our watches start at $10,000, she said slowly, like she was talking to a child. "I understand," Elon replied. Other customers in the store started to look over. A man in a fancy suit whispered something to his wife. She giggled behind her hand. Victoria walked to a glass case in the back. She moved slowly, like she was giving Elon time to change his mind and leave. But he followed her. "This is our Santos Dumont collection," she said, pointing to a watch that gleamed like silver fire. "This particular piece is platinum with diamonds. It costs $150,000. Elon stared at the watch. It was beautiful, but that wasn't why he wanted it. 3 days ago, his ex-wife Justine had taken their kids to see her new boyfriend. The boyfriend wore a Rolex that caught the light when he shook Elon's hand. He owned 3 restaurants and drove a Ferrari. He never had to sleep at work or eat cereal for dinner because he spent all his money trying to save the world. "I'll take it," Elon said. Victoria laughed. Not a nice laugh. A mean one. "Sir, this watch costs more than most people's houses," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Are you sure you can afford it?" The words hit Elon like a punch in the stomach. He felt his face get hot and red. Can he afford it? On paper, Elon Musk was worth millions. He had created PayPal and sold it for millions of dollars. He started Tesla to make electric cars. He started SpaceX to go to Mars. But right now, today, he had maybe $300 in his bank account. Everything else was tied up in his companies, his dying companies. Tesla needed $40 million by Christmas or it would close forever. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches in a row. Everyone said Elon was crazy. Everyone said he would lose everything. Maybe they were right. "I need to see proof that you can pay for this," Victoria continued. Her voice was getting louder. "We can't let just anyone waste our time." More people were staring now. Someone pulled out their phone. Elon could see the red recording light that a teenage girl whispered to her mom. "Is that guy famous?" "Probably thinks he is," the mom whispered back. Victoria crossed her arms. "Sir, if you're not serious about buying, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Elon looked around the store. Everyone was watching him, waiting for him to run away with his tail between his legs. waiting for him to prove that he really was just some crazy guy who thought he could change the world. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his assistant Sarah. "Boss, we need to talk. Tesla's situation is getting worse." Elon's hands started to shake. Not from fear. From anger, he thought about all the times people had told him he couldn't do something. When he was a kid in South Africa, other kids said he was too weird to have friends. When he wanted to come to America, people said he would never make it. When he started PayPal, experts said it would never work. When he said he wanted to make electric cars, everyone laughed. When he said he wanted to go to Mars, they called him insane. But he had proved them wrong before. Every single time. "Please, leave if you're not serious," Victoria said again, even louder this time. The man in the fancy suit shook his head. "Some people have no shame," he said to his wife. That was it. Elon couldn't take any more that he looked Victoria straight in the eye. "You know what? You're right. I can't afford this watch." Victoria smiled like she had won something. "But," Elon continued, his voice getting stronger, "I can afford something else." "Oh, really?" Victoria asked. "What's that?" Elon's smile was small but dangerous. "I can afford to make sure you never forget this day." He turned and walked toward the door. The other customers moved out of his way. At the door, he stopped and looked back. "By the way," he said to Victoria, "you might want to Google my name. Elon Musk. Musk." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Sure, Mr. Musk. I'll get right on that." Elon pushed through the heavy glass door and walked into the bright California sunshine. Behind him, he could hear Victoria telling the other customers, "We get people like that all the time. Dreamers who think they're important." He got into his beat-up Tesla Roadster. The car was one of the first electric sports cars ever made. Tesla had built it by hand in a tiny factory. It looked cool, but it barely worked half the time. As he sat in the parking lot, Elon pulled out his phone. His hands were still shaking, but not from anger anymore. From excitement that he scrolled through his contacts and found the number he was looking for. Peter Thiel, his old friend from the PayPal days. The man who had invested in Facebook and made billions. Elon hit call. "Peter," he said when his friend answered. "I need a favor. A big one." "What kind of favor?" Peter asked. Elon looked back at the Cartier store. Victoria was helping another customer, probably telling them about the crazy man who just left. "The kind that will make history," Elon said. "Meet me tomorrow morning. I have an idea that's going to change everything." He hung up the phone and started his car. The engine made a weird noise, but it started as he drove away from Rodeo Drive. Elon couldn't stop smiling. Victoria Chin had no idea what she had just started. She thought she had embarrassed him. She thought she had put him in his place. She was wrong. Elon Musk was about to show the whole world exactly who he was. And when he was done, no one would ever doubt him again. Not even himself. Elon drove straight back to the Tesla factory in Fremont. The building was huge and mostly empty. They could make thousands of cars here, but right now they were lucky to make 10 cars a week. Each one cost more money than Tesla could sell it for. It was already dark when he parked his car. The factory lights were still on. His workers were inside, building cars by hand. They stayed late because they believed in the dream too. Even when the dream was dying, Elon walked through the factory floor. Sparks flew from welding machines. The smell of metal and electricity filled the air. This was his favorite place in the world. Here, impossible things became real. "Boss," Elon turned to see Marcus Johnson, one of his best engineers. Marcus had left a good job at Ford to work for Tesla. He had a wife and 2 kids at home. "Marcus, what are you still doing here?" Elon asked. "Same as you," Marcus replied. "Trying to save the world." Marcus pointed to a red Roadster on the assembly line. "This one's almost done. Number 847. But boss, we need to talk about the money situation." Elon's stomach dropped. He knew what Marcus was going to say. "We can't pay the workers next week," Marcus said quietly. "And the parts suppliers want their money now. No more waiting." Elon nodded. He had known this day would come. Tesla was running out of time and money. "How much do we need?" Elon asked. $40 million. By Christmas. Christmas was 3 weeks away. And if we don't get it? Marcus looked around the factory. At the workers who had given up better jobs to be here. At the cars that could change the world if they just had more time. "Then we shut down," Marcus said. "Forever." Elon felt like someone had punched him in the chest. He had put every dollar he owned into Tesla. He had sold his house. He had borrowed money against his other company, SpaceX. If Tesla died, everything would be gone. Boss, there's something else, Marcus said. He pulled out his phone. Someone posted a video online. From today, Elon's heart sank. He knew what video it was. The video showed him in the Cartier store. Victoria Chun was talking loud enough for everyone to hear. This watch costs more than most people's houses. Are you sure you can afford it? Then it showed Elon's red face, his shaking hands, his walk of shame to the door. The video had a title, Broke CEO Gets Kicked Out of Luxury Store. It had 50,000 views already. The comments were terrible. What a loser, one person wrote. Tesla is going to fail anyway, wrote another. This guy thinks he's Tony Stark, but he's just a joke. Elon handed the phone back to Marcus. I'm sorry you had to see that. Boss, I don't care what some store lady thinks, Marcus said. But the workers are scared. They're hearing rumors that we're going broke. Elon looked out at the factory floor. Some workers were looking at him, whispering. They had families to feed. They needed to know their jobs were safe. But Elon couldn't promise that. Not yet. Tell them to keep working, Elon said. Tell them I have a plan. Marcus looked doubtful. What kind of plan? I don't know yet, Elon admitted. But I'll figure it out. I always do. After Marcus left, Elon walked to his office. It wasn't really an office. It was just a desk in the corner of the factory. He liked it better that way. He could see everything from here. His computer was covered with bills, red letters that said, "Final notice," and "Payment overdue." His phone had 17 missed calls from angry suppliers. Elon sat down and put his head in his hands. For the first time in months, he felt like crying. His phone rang. The caller ID said Sarah Rodriguez. Sarah had been his assistant since the PayPal days. She was the only person who knew how bad things really were. Hi, Sarah, Elon said, trying to sound normal. Boss, I just saw the video, Sarah said. Her voice was sad. Are you okay? I'm fine, Elon lied. You don't sound fine. You sound tired. Elon looked around the factory. I am tired, Sarah. I'm tired of people thinking I'm a fake. I'm tired of almost going broke every month. I'm tired of sleeping here instead of going home. Home? Sarah asked. Boss, you sold your house 6 months ago. Elon laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. Right? I forgot. Where are you sleeping? On the couch in the break room. Sometimes in my car. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Boss, this isn't healthy. You're killing yourself. If I don't kill myself, Tesla will die, Elon said. And if Tesla dies, then gas cars will keep polluting the air. Climate change will get worse. The world will survive, Sarah interrupted. But you might not. Elon's other phone started ringing. The caller ID said Elon Musk, his brother. Sarah, I have to go. My brother is calling. Boss, wait. I have some good news. 3 investors want to meet with you next week. Elon's heart jumped. Really? How much money? Maybe 10 million. But boss, they want to see your business plan. They want to know Tesla can make money. $10 million. It wasn't enough. They needed 40 million. But it was a start. Set up the meetings, Elon said. I'll figure out what to tell them. He hung up and answered his brother's call. Elon, Kimball's voice was worried. I saw the video. What happened? I went to buy a watch. The store manager thought I was too poor to afford it. Are you too poor to afford it? Elon looked at his bank account on his computer screen. $347.23. He had been worth hundreds of millions when he sold PayPal. Now he couldn't even buy a nice dinner. Maybe, he said quietly. Elon, you don't sound like yourself. That woman was horrible to you, but you've been through worse. Have I? Elon asked. When Dad used to call you stupid. When kids at school made fun of you. When everyone said PayPal would never work. When they said electric cars were impossible. Kimball was right. Elon had been doubted before, but this felt different. This time, he was starting to doubt himself. Kimball, what if everyone is right? What if I am just a dreamer who got lucky once? Then you're the kind of dreamer the world needs, Kimball said. But Elon, I know you. You're not calling me just to complain. You have a plan, don't you? Elon looked out at his workers. They were still building cars, even though they might not get paid next week. They believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. Maybe, Elon said. What kind of plan? Elon's smile came back, just a little. The kind that will make everyone remember why they shouldn't underestimate Elon Musk. That sounds dangerous. The best plans usually are. After hanging up, Elon walked back out to the factory floor. Workers were finishing up for the night. They waved goodbye to him. Some looked worried, but they all still treated him with respect. Marcus came over with a clipboard. "Boss, we finished car number 847 today. Want to see it?" Elon followed Marcus to the red roadster. It was beautiful. Perfect curves, clean lines, and completely electric. No gas engine, no pollution, just pure, quiet power. "It's beautiful," Elon said. "It's also losing us money," Marcus replied. "We spend $60,000 to make each car. We sell them for $50,000. That's not sustainable," Elon agreed. "No, it's not. But boss, I believe in what we're doing. Everyone here does. We just need more time." Elon put his hand on the car's smooth hood. "What if I told you that by Christmas, we'll have all the money we need?" Marcus looked surprised. "How?" "I'm not sure yet. But Marcus, I've learned something important. Sometimes the only way to save your dream is to risk everything." "That sounds scary." "It is scary. But you know what's scarier? Giving up." Elon looked around the factory one more time. Tomorrow, he would meet with Peter Thiel. Tomorrow, he would start the most dangerous plan of his life. But tonight, he was just a man who had been insulted by a store clerk. A man who was almost broke. A man who was sleeping on a couch in a factory. Tomorrow, he would start to change that. Tomorrow, he would show the world who Elon Musk really was. The next morning, Elon drove to Palo Alto. He had barely slept on the factory couch. His back hurt and his neck was stiff. But his mind was racing with ideas. He parked outside Cafe Venetia, a small coffee shop where he used to meet with other tech entrepreneurs back in the PayPal days. It seemed like a lifetime ago. Peter Thiel was already there, sitting in the back corner. He looked the same as always, thin, serious, wearing an expensive dark suit. Peter had made billions of dollars investing in Facebook. He was one of the smartest people Elon knew. "You look terrible," Peter said when Elon sat down. "Thanks for the honesty," Elon replied. He tried to smile, but it felt fake. A waitress came over. She was young, maybe college age. Her name tag said, "Jenny, what can I get you?" she asked. "Coffee, black, and make it strong," Elon said. "Same for me," Peter added. When Jenny walked away, Peter leaned forward. "Elon, I saw the video. The whole internet has seen it." Elon's stomach dropped. "How bad is it?" 2 million views and counting. Someone made it into a meme. There are remixes and reaction videos. Peter showed Elon his phone. The video was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. People were making jokes about broke Elon and Tesla's last days. "This is a disaster," Elon said quietly. "Maybe," Peter said. "Or maybe it's an opportunity." Elon looked up. "What do you mean? Everyone loves a comeback story. The question is, do you have a plan for a comeback?" Jenny brought their coffee. It was hot and bitter, exactly what Elon needed. "Peter, what if I told you I could turn this whole thing around? Not just the video, but everything. Tesla's money problems, people thinking I'm finished, all of it." Peter took a sip of coffee. "I'd say you have my attention." Elon pulled out his phone. He opened a folder full of photos and engineering drawings. His hands were shaking a little from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. "What if I told you we could build something that would make everyone forget about that stupid video?" "What kind of something?" Elon showed Peter the first photo. It was a sketch of a car, but not a normal car. This car had small rocket engines attached to the bottom. Peter's eyes went wide. "Is that a flying car?" Elon finished. "Not just any flying car. A Tesla Roadster that can hover using SpaceX rocket technology." Peter stared at the screen. "Elon, this is impossible." "Is it?" Elon asked. "You of all people should know that impossible is just another word for untried." Peter scrolled through more photos. There were detailed engineering drawings, computer simulations, videos of rocket engines being tested. "The engineering alone would take years," Peter said. "I have the best engineers in the world," Elon replied. "Tom Mueller at SpaceX has been working on small rocket engines for months. Not for flying cars, but for other projects. We could adapt them." "How long would it take?" 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Peter nearly choked on his coffee. 3 weeks to build a flying car. "Not a real flying car," Elon clarified. "A demonstration. Something that could hover for maybe a minute. Just long enough to blow people's minds." Peter studied the drawings more carefully. This could actually work. Theoretically. More than theoretically. "Peter, I've already talked to my engineers. They think it's crazy, but they think it's possible. Ginny walked by their table. She glanced at Elon's phone and saw the flying car drawings. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you guys making a movie or something?" Elon and Peter looked at each other. "Something like that," Peter said. After Ginny left, Peter leaned closer. "Elon, why are you really doing this? This isn't just about that store clerk, is it?" Elon was quiet for a moment. He thought about Tesla's empty bank account, about his workers who might not get paid, about all the people who said electric cars would never work. "Tesla is dying, Peter. We need $40 million by Christmas or we shut down forever." "I know. Sarah told me when she called to set up this meeting." Elon looked surprised. "Sarah called you? She's worried about you." "We all are." Peter put down his coffee cup. "But Elon, a flying car stunt isn't going to save Tesla. It might get you on the news, but it won't bring in $40 million. Won't it?" Elon asked. His smile was mysterious. He showed Peter another photo on his phone. This one was a document, a contract with lots of legal words and big numbers. Peter read it carefully. His face went pale. "This is impossible," Peter whispered. "That word again," Elon said. "Elon, this says NASA wants to hire SpaceX for a Mars mission. A real mission with real astronauts." "They do. But how?" "SpaceX has failed 3 launches in a row. The 4th launch is next month. If it works, NASA will give us the contract." Peter looked confused. "What does this have to do with flying cars?" Elon's smile got bigger. "Everything. Peter, what if I told you that one crazy stunt could save 2 companies at the same time? I'd say you're either a genius or you've lost your mind. Can't I be both?" Peter laughed despite himself. "Okay, I'll bite. How does a flying car save Tesla and get you a Mars contract?" Elon leaned forward. "Because it's not really about the flying car. It's about the story." "What story?" "The story of a man who got laughed at in a store, then came back and did something impossible. The story of someone who turned embarrassment into triumph. The story of a company that was almost dead but refused to give up." Peter was starting to understand. "You want to create a media sensation. I want to create a legend," Elon corrected. "Peter, when people invest in Tesla, they're not just buying stock in a car company. They're buying into a dream. The dream that one person can change the world. And the flying car proves that dream is real. The flying car proves that when people say something is impossible, they might be wrong." Peter scrolled through the photos one more time. "This is the craziest plan I've ever heard. Good crazy or bad crazy? I'm not sure yet. But Elon, even if this works, even if you build a flying car and it gets you on every news channel in the world, you still need $40 million. Elon's smile became mysterious again. "Actually, I think I have that problem solved too." "How?" "Let me ask you something, Peter. If you saw a Tesla fly through the air, how much would you pay for Tesla stock?" Peter thought about it. "More than I pay now. A lot more. Probably. And if millions of people saw it on TV and the internet." Peter's eyes lit up. "The stock price would go crazy. Crazy enough to save the company." Peter sat back in his chair. "Elon, you're not just planning a publicity stunt. You're planning to manipulate your own stock price." "I'm planning to show people what Tesla is really worth," Elon said. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Elon looked out the window. People were walking by on the street. Normal people living normal lives. None of them knew that the future of electric cars might be decided in this little coffee shop. "Peter, I've learned something important about people. They don't remember what you say. They remember how you make you feel. And how do you want to make them feel? Amazed. Like anything is possible. Like the future is already here." Peter was quiet for a long time. He looked at the photos again, at the engineering drawings, at the NASA contract. "You need money to build this thing," he finally said. "Some. Not much. Maybe 2 million. I can get you 2 million. Elon's heart jumped. "Really? Really? But Elon, if this doesn't work, if your flying car crashes or blows up or just looks stupid, you'll be finished. Not just Tesla. You. Your reputation. Everything. I know. And you're still willing to risk it." Elon thought about Victoria Chun at the Cartier store. About her cold smile and mean laugh. About everyone who had ever told him he couldn't do something. "Peter, do you know what's scarier than risking everything?" "What?" "Doing nothing. Staying safe. Letting other people decide what's possible." Peter smiled for the first time since they sat down. "You know what, Elon? I think you might actually be crazy enough to pull this off. So you'll help me? I'll help you. But I want one thing in return. What? I want to be there when you test it. If you're going to make history, I want to watch. Elon reached across the table and shook Peter's hand. Deal. As they walked out of the coffee shop, Peter asked one more question. Elon, what if that store manager finds out what you're planning? Elon looked back at the Cartier store direction, even though it was miles away. Then she'll learn the same lesson everyone else will learn. Never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose. Elon drove straight from the coffee shop to SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne. The building looked like a giant airplane hangar, which it used to be. Inside, rockets and engines filled the massive space. This was where dreams of Mars were built piece by piece. He walked through the main floor, past engineers working on the Falcon 1 rocket. SpaceX had failed 3 launches already. Everyone said they were wasting time and money. But Elon knew the 4th launch would be different. It had to be. Emergency meeting. Elon called out. Conference room. Now, engineers stopped what they were doing and looked up. Emergency meetings usually meant big problems or crazy new ideas. With Elon, it was hard to tell the difference. The conference room filled up quickly. Tom Mueller sat at the front. He was SpaceX's engine expert, the man who made rockets roar to life. Next to him sat Gwynne Shotwell, the company president who kept everything running. Hans Koenigsmann, their flight safety expert, took a seat near the window. These were some of the smartest people in the world. They had left good jobs at Boeing and NASA to work for a crazy South African who wanted to go to Mars. I need you to do something that's never been done before, Elon began. Tom Mueller rolled his eyes. Boss, that's literally what we do every day. This is different, Elon said. He walked to the whiteboard and drew a picture of a car with small rockets underneath. I need you to make a car fly. The room went silent. Then everyone started talking at once. That's not how rockets work, someone shouted. The FAA will shut us down, said another. It could explode and kill someone. Elon raised his hand for quiet. I'm not talking about flying to space. I'm talking about hovering, maybe 10 feet off the ground, for 1 minute. Tom Mueller leaned forward. Boss, rockets are designed to go up fast and keep going up. What you're describing is more like a helicopter, but with rockets instead of rotors, Elon said. Why would we want to do that? Asked Gwynne. Elon told them about the watch store, about Victoria Chun and her mean laugh, about the video that was making him look like a joke, about Tesla's money problems and the $40 million they needed by Christmas. So this is about revenge? Hans asked. No, Elon said. This is about showing the world what we can do when people say we can't. He explained his plan. They would take a Tesla Roadster and attach small Merlin engines underneath. The same engines they used in their rockets, but smaller. The car would hover for exactly 1 minute, then land safely. Boss, Tom said slowly, have you lost your mind? Maybe, Elon replied. But I'd rather be crazy and try something impossible than be sane and give up. Gwynne pulled out her calculator. Even if we could build it, the fuel costs alone would be enormous. And the insurance, how much? Elon asked. $2 million. Maybe 3. I can get 3 million, Elon said. Thinking about Peter Thiel's promise, Tom Mueller was drawing on a piece of paper. The weight distribution would be all wrong. Cars aren't designed to have rocket engines pushing up from the bottom. So we redesign it, Elon said. In how much time? 3 weeks. The room erupted in laughter. Not mean laughter like Victoria Chin's, but the kind of laughter that happens when someone suggests something so impossible it's funny. Boss, Hans said, wiping tears from his eyes. It takes us 3 months just to test a new engine design. You want us to build a flying car in 3 weeks. I want you to try, Elon said. His voice was serious now. Look, I know it sounds crazy, but everything we do here sounds crazy to most people. Going to Mars sounds crazy. Building rockets in a garage sounds crazy, but we do it anyway. Tom stopped laughing. He was looking at Elon's drawing more carefully. Actually, he said slowly, it might be possible. Everyone turned to stare at Tom. The Merlin 1A engines we use for the Falcon 1, Tom continued. They're designed to throttle down. If we used 4 of them, 1 at each corner of the car, the thrust-to-weight ratio could work, Hans added, getting excited. A Roadster weighs about 2,700 pounds. For Merlin engines could lift that easy. But the control systems, Gwynne said. How do you steer a flying car? Same way we steer rockets, Elon said. Computer control. Thousands of tiny adjustments per second. The engineers were getting excited now. They started drawing diagrams and calculating numbers. This was what they lived for, solving impossible problems. "We'd need to strip out everything from the car except the frame," Tom said. "No seats, no dashboard, no nothing. Just a shell with engines. And we'd need a new fuel system," Hans added. "The car's gas tank won't work for rocket fuel." "How long could it hover?" Elon asked. Tom did some quick math. "With the fuel we could carry? Maybe 90 seconds. If we're lucky." "I only need 60 seconds," Elon said. "Why 60 seconds?" Gwen asked. Elon smiled. "Because that's how long it takes to change the world." The team worked through the evening, sketching ideas and solving problems. By midnight, they had a basic design. It looked crazy, but it might actually work. "Boss," Tom said as everyone was packing up, "there's one more problem." "What's that?" "Where are you going to test this thing? We can't just fly a rocket car in the middle of Los Angeles." Elon thought about it. "Rodeo Drive." "What?" "We're going to test it where it matters most. Right in front of that Cartier store." Hans looked worried. "Boss, if something goes wrong, if the car crashes or catches fire in the middle of Beverly Hills, then we'll deal with it," Elon said. "But it's not going to crash. You guys are too good for that." As the engineers left for the night, Tom Mueller stayed behind. "Boss, can I ask you something?" "Sure. This isn't really about showing up some store clerk, is it?" Elon looked out at the factory floor, where rockets waited to carry humans to space someday. "Tom, when I was a kid, people told me I'd never amount to anything. When I started PayPal, they said it would never work. When I started Tesla, they said electric cars were stupid. When I started SpaceX, they said private companies couldn't build rockets. But you proved them wrong every time." "Did I?" Elon asked. "Tesla is almost bankrupt. SpaceX has failed 3 launches. Maybe everyone was right about me." Tom shook his head. "Boss, I've worked for NASA. I've worked for Boeing. I've never met anyone who thinks bigger than you do." "Thinking big is easy," Elon replied. "Making it real is the hard part. So why do this? Why risk everything on a flying car?" Elon was quiet for a moment. "Because, Tom, sometimes you have to do something so impossible, so amazing, that people have no choice but to believe in you again. And if it doesn't work, then at least we'll fail doing something incredible." Tom smiled. "You know what, boss? I'm in. This is either going to be the best thing we've ever built or the last thing we ever build. Let's make sure it's the best," Elon said. As Tom walked away, he called back over his shoulder. "By the way, boss, what are you going to call this thing?" Elon thought about Victoria Chun and her cold smile, about everyone who had ever doubted him, about the impossible dream of making cars fly. "Project Impossible," he said. The next 5 days felt like 5 years. Elon barely slept. He lived on coffee and energy bars, moving between Tesla and SpaceX like a man on fire. His workers had never seen him so focused, not even during the early PayPal days when they were racing to beat the banks. At Tesla, the team stripped down a red Roadster until it was just a shell. They removed the seats, the dashboard, the sound system, everything except the frame and wheels. What was left looked like a skeleton of a car. "It's ugly," said Marcus Johnson, staring at the bare metal frame. "It's beautiful," Elon replied. "It's the future." Meanwhile, at SpaceX, Tom Mueller and his team worked on the hardest part, making rocket engines small enough to fit under a car but powerful enough to lift it. "We're basically building 4 mini rockets," Tom explained to his assistant, Jake Williams. "Each one has to fire at exactly the right time, with exactly the right power." "What happens if they don't?" Jake asked. "Best case, the car falls and breaks. Worst case, it flies sideways into a building." Jake looked nervous. "Maybe we should test this somewhere safer than Rodeo Drive." Tom shook his head. "Boss wants it on Rodeo Drive. Boss gets it on Rodeo Drive." Sarah Rodriguez had the hardest job of all. She had to coordinate between both companies while keeping the project secret. Every day, reporters called asking about the watch store video. Every day, Tesla's stock price dropped a little more. "Boss," she said, bringing Elon his 10th cup of coffee that day, "the media is getting suspicious. Someone saw the SpaceX trucks at Tesla." "What did you tell them?" Elon asked, not looking up from his computer. "That we're working on a new battery system." "Good. How much longer do we have?" Sarah checked her calendar. 18 days until Christmas. 15 days until Tesla runs out of money. Elon's hands stopped typing. That's cutting it close. Too close, Sarah agreed. Boss, what if this doesn't work? What if Project Impossible is just impossible? Elon finally looked up from his computer. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. His hair was even messier than usual, but his smile was confident. Sarah, do you know what my favorite word is? Impossible. No. Yet. When people say something is impossible, I hear them saying it's impossible yet. That just means no one has figured out how to do it yet. Sarah smiled despite her worry. You really believe this will work? I have to believe it. If I don't, who will? Back at the Cartier store, Victoria Chun was having problems of her own. Her boss, James Wright, had called 3 meetings about the incident. Victoria, James said, sitting across from her in his office. Do you understand what you've done? Victoria tried to look confident. I protected our store from someone who was wasting our time. James turned his computer screen toward her. It showed Elon's Wikipedia page. This man is worth $300 million. Victoria's face went pale. That can't be right. He looked like a homeless person. He sold PayPal for $165 million. He started Tesla Motors. He started SpaceX. James's voice was getting louder. And you treated him like garbage. But he couldn't afford the watch, Victoria stammered. Victoria, this man could buy our entire store and use it as a garage. Victoria felt sick. The video of her rejecting Elon had 3 million views. Now, most of the comments were calling her terrible names. Some people had figured out where she worked and were calling the store to complain. Am I fired? She asked quietly. James sighed. Not yet. But Victoria, if this hurts our business, if customers stop coming because of what you did, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Outside the store, strange things were happening. Construction trucks parked across the street every morning. Men in SpaceX uniforms set up equipment, then took it down before anyone could ask questions. Victoria watched from the window. What do you think they're doing? She asked her coworker, Lisa Park. Maybe they're filming a commercial, Lisa said. Or a movie. About what? I don't know. But it's been going on for days. What Victoria didn't know was that Elon's team was secretly measuring everything. The distance from the street to the store, the height of the buildings, the direction of the wind. They were planning the most important 60 seconds in Tesla's history, at SpaceX. The engineers faced a new problem every day. The fuel pumps keep breaking, Tom Mueller told Elon during their daily meeting. What? They're not designed to work upside down. In a rocket, fuel flows down to the engines. In a car, they have to pump up. So we build new pumps, Elon said. In 10 days. Hans Koenigsmann had a different problem. Boss, the computer systems aren't talking to each other. The Tesla computer doesn't understand rocket language. Then, teach it, Elon replied. Boss, that's not how computers work. Then make it how computers work. Every problem seemed impossible until someone solved it. The team worked 20-hour days, sleeping in the factory and eating takeout food. Their families barely saw them. But slowly, Project Impossible started to look possible. The engines are mounted, Tom reported on day 8. The fuel system is working, Han said on day 10. The computer can control all 4 engines at once, Jake announced on day 12. On day 13, they were ready for the first test. They took the modified Roadster to a secret location in the Mojave Desert. No reporters, no cameras, just Elon and his team standing behind a concrete wall. Remember, Tom said over the radio, this is just a hover test. 6 inches off the ground for 10 seconds. Elon sat in the driver's seat, even though he wasn't really driving. The computer would do everything. His job was just to press the button that said ignite. You sure about this, boss? Marcus asked from behind the wall. No, Elon replied honestly. But let's do it anyway. He pressed the button. 4 rockets. Fired at once. The noise was incredible, like thunder that never stopped. The car shook violently, then slowly, impossibly, it rose off the ground. 6 inches. 1 foot. 2 feet. It's working, someone shouted. The car hovered for exactly 10 seconds, then settled back down. The engines shut off. The desert was quiet again. Elon climbed out of the car, his legs shaking. His team ran over, cheering and hugging each other. We did it, Tom said, grinning like a little kid. We actually did it. That was just the test. Elon reminded them. The real thing happens in 3 days. 3 days? Hans looked worried. Boss, we need more time to make sure everything's perfect. We don't have more time, Elon said. Tesla runs out of money in 5 days. If we don't do this now, there won't be a Tesla to save. The team went quiet. They all knew how close the company was to dying. Besides, Elon added, perfect is the enemy of good enough. And good enough just made a car fly. That night, Elon called Peter Thiel. It worked, he said simply. The flying car. The flying car. Peter, we made a Tesla hover 10 feet off the ground for 60 seconds. Peter was quiet for a moment. Elon, this is either the most brilliant thing you've ever done or the most dangerous. Can it be both? Probably. Are you ready for Rodeo Drive? Elon looked out at his team, still celebrating their impossible achievement. Tomorrow they would pack everything up and drive to Beverly Hills. In 3 days, they would either save Tesla or destroy it completely. Ready or not? Elon said, it's time to show the world what impossible looks like. December 21st. One day before the demonstration, Elon couldn't sleep. He stood in his tiny apartment, really just a studio he rented after selling his house. The walls were covered with photos of rockets and electric cars. On his desk sat a picture of his 5 sons, smiling at a birthday party he had missed because he was working. He picked up the picture and stared at it. What kind of father puts his dreams ahead of his children? What kind of man risks everything on a flying car just to prove a point? His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-wife Justine. Boys are asking when they'll see you again. You missed Griffin's soccer game. Elon typed back. After tomorrow. I promise. You always promise, came her reply. She was right. He did always promise. And he didn't always keep those promises. Building the future was expensive. It cost money, time, and sometimes the people you loved most. Another text, this time from his brother Kimball. Saw the news trucks on Rodeo Drive. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Elon smiled. Kimball always worried about him. Even when they were kids in South Africa, Kimball was the one who made sure Elon ate dinner and did his homework. Now Kimball ran restaurants while Elon tried to change the world. His phone rang. Sarah Rodriguez. Boss, I've got good news and bad news, she said. Bad news first. Tesla's bank account hit zero today. We literally cannot pay for anything else. Elon felt his stomach drop. And the good news? 3 reporters figured out something big is happening tomorrow. CNN, NBC, and the Los Angeles Times all called asking for interviews. What did you tell them? That you'll give them a story they'll never forget. Elon walked to his window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Victoria Chun was probably sleeping peacefully, not knowing that tomorrow would change both their lives forever. Sarah, what if this doesn't work? What if the car crashes or the engines fail? Then we'll deal with it, Sarah said. But boss, I've been with you since PayPal. I've seen you do impossible things before. This feels different. Because the stakes are higher. Because I'm not sure I believe in myself anymore. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Boss, can I tell you something? When I first started working for you, I thought you were crazy. Electric cars that nobody wanted? Rockets built in a garage. I figured I'd work for you for 6 months, then find a normal job. What changed your mind? You did. Every time someone said you couldn't do something, you proved them wrong. Not because you were smarter than everyone else, but because you refused to give up. I'm tired of fighting, Sarah. Then don't think of it as fighting. Think of it as flying. After hanging up, Elon tried to sleep but couldn't. Finally, he got dressed and drove to the SpaceX facility. The building was dark except for one corner where his team was doing final checks on the flying car. Tom Mueller looked up when Elon walked in. Boss, what are you doing here? You should be sleeping. Can't sleep. How's our baby looking? The modified Tesla Roadster sat in the middle of the workspace. It barely looked like a car anymore. The rocket engines underneath made it look like something from a science fiction movie. She's ready, Tom said proudly. All systems tested. Fuel loaded. Computer programmed. Any last-minute problems? Just one, said Hans Koenigsmann, walking over with a clipboard. The landing might be rough. We can control the hover, but setting down gently is harder. How rough? The car might bounce, or slide, or crash spectacularly in front of millions of people. Elon finished. That's the worst-case scenario, yes. Elon walked around the car, running his hands along the rocket engines. They were works of art, beautiful, deadly, and completely untested in real conditions. You know what, guys? I'm proud of us no matter what happens tomorrow. Jake Williams looked up from his computer. Boss, are you giving us a goodbye speech? Maybe. If this goes wrong, SpaceX might not survive either. NASA doesn't give contracts to companies that blow up cars on Rodeo Drive. The team gathered around Elon. These weren't just employees. They were dreamers who had given up safe jobs to build rockets with a crazy billionaire. I want you all to know something, Elon continued. What we built here, this impossible flying car, it's not really about proving Victoria Chen wrong. It's not even about saving Tesla. Then what's it about? Tom asked. It's about showing everyone, including ourselves, that the future doesn't have to wait. That if you can dream it, and if you're willing to work hard enough, you can build it. Gwynn Shotwell walked in from the office. Boss, I just got off the phone with our insurance company. They're not happy about tomorrow. What did they say? That we're either brilliant or insane, and they can't decide which. What did you tell them? That we're definitely insane, but we might also be brilliant. Everyone laughed. It felt good to laugh after weeks of stress and worry. Gwynn, how many people do you think will see this tomorrow? Elon asked. If the news trucks show up? Maybe 10 million people on TV. But boss, if this goes viral online, how many then? Everyone. Literally everyone with an internet connection. Elon thought about that. 10 million people watching him either succeed magnificently or fail spectacularly. No pressure at all. Boss, Tom said quietly. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why does this matter so much to you? I mean, really? Elon sat down on a workbench. He looked tired, older than his 37 years. When I was 12 years old, I read every science fiction book I could find. Books about flying cars and space travel and robots. I thought the future would be amazing. He paused, looking at the flying car. But when I grew up, the future looked just like the past. Same cars, same energy, same problems. So I decided to build the future myself. And if people don't believe in your future, then I'll make it so amazing they have no choice but to believe. Marcus Johnson arrived with coffee for everyone. Boss, I've got the final numbers from Tesla. If tomorrow doesn't work, we shut down operations on December 24th. Christmas Eve, Elon said sadly. Worst Christmas present ever, Marcus agreed. Or the best, Elon replied. Marcus, what if I told you that by Christmas Day, Tesla stock will be worth more than it's ever been? I'd say you're dreaming. Good. The world needs more dreamers. As dawn approached, the team made final preparations. Fuel tanks were topped off. Computer systems were tested one last time. Emergency procedures were reviewed. Boss, Sarah called from across the room. I just got a call from Rodeo Drive. They want to know if we need the street closed for a movie shoot. What did you tell them? That we're not making a movie. We're making history. Elon looked at his watch. 6 a.m. In 6 hours, they would load the flying car onto a truck and drive to Beverly Hills. In 8 hours, the world would see something it had never seen before. Team, he called out. Final question. Anyone want to back out? Anyone think this is too crazy? Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then let's go show Victoria Chen what happens when you underestimate Elon Musk. As they loaded the car onto the transport truck, Tom Mueller asked one last question. Boss, what happens after tomorrow? If this works, if Tesla is saved, if we become famous, what's next? Elon smiled as he watched his impossible dream being carefully secured for transport. Then we build something even more impossible. Like what? Like a rocket that can land itself. Like a car that drives itself. Like a tunnel under Los Angeles. Tom laughed. You really are crazy. The best kind of crazy, Elon replied, climbing into his beat-up Tesla for the drive to Rodeo Drive. The kind that changes the world. December 22nd, 10 a.m. Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills. Elon arrived first, driving his beat-up Tesla Roadster down the famous street. The same car that had embarrassed him 2 weeks ago was now barely running. The engine made strange noises and the air conditioning didn't work. But it had gotten him here. Behind him came a convoy of trucks. SpaceX engineers in white uniforms jumped out and began setting up equipment. To anyone watching, it looked like a movie crew getting ready to film. Elon parked across from the Cartier store and sat in his car for a moment. Through the window, he could see Victoria Chen arranging watches in a display case. She had no idea that her life was about to change forever. His phone buzzed with messages. Sarah, CNN truck just arrived. Reporter asking questions. Peter Thiel, stock market opens in 30 minutes. Tesla down 3% already. Tom Mueller, flying car ready for transport. You sure about this? Elon typed back to Tom. Never been more sure of anything. That was a lie. He had never been less sure of anything in his life. That a crowd was gathering. People with cameras pointed them at the SpaceX trucks. Someone recognized Elon sitting in his car and started taking pictures. That's him, a teenage boy shouted. That's the guy from the video. More people came running. Within minutes, there were 50 people on the sidewalk. News vans started arriving. Reporters pushed through the crowd with microphones. Inside the Cartier store, Victoria Chen noticed the commotion. She walked to the window and saw the crowd growing. Then she saw the SpaceX trucks. Then she saw Elon Musk sitting in his Tesla, staring right at her. Her face went pale. Lisa, she called to her coworker. I think we have a problem. Lisa Park looked out the window. Is that the guy from the video? Yes, and I think he's here because of me. James Wright, the regional manager, had driven down from his office when he heard about the crowd. He pushed through the store's front door, looking worried. Victoria, what's going on out there? I don't know, she lied. But she did know. Somehow, someway, Elon Musk was back. And he wasn't alone this time. Outside, Elon got out of his car. The crowd pressed closer, phones recording everything. A reporter from Channel 7 News pushed a microphone toward his face. Mr. Musk, can you tell us why you're here? Elon looked directly at the Cartier store, then back at the reporter. I'm here to make an announcement about the future, he said calmly. What kind of announcement? The kind that will change everything. Another reporter shouted. Is this about the video? About what happened in that store? Elon smiled. Everything that happens today started with what happened in that store. The crowd was getting bigger. Police officers arrived to control traffic. The mayor's office had been called. This was turning into the biggest news story Beverly Hills had seen in years. At exactly 10:30 a.m., the SpaceX transport truck arrived. It was massive, with SpaceX written in huge letters on the side. Two smaller trucks followed, carrying equipment and fuel. The crowd went silent as the trucks parked. Everyone wanted to see what was inside. Tom Mueller jumped out of the lead truck and walked over to Elon. Boss, we're ready. But are you sure you want to do this here? There are a lot of people. Elon looked around. The crowd had grown to over 200 people. News helicopters circled overhead. Live TV trucks lined the street. Tom, if we're going to change the world, we might as well do it where everyone can see. Inside the Cartier store, Victoria was having a panic attack. Her hands were shaking so badly, she couldn't hold anything. James Wright was on the phone with corporate headquarters, trying to figure out what to do. Sir, James said into the phone, there are news trucks everywhere. Helicopters. Hundreds of people. All because of what happened with Elon Musk 2 weeks ago. Victoria could hear the voice on the other end of the phone, but not the words. James's face kept getting redder. Yes, sir, James said finally. I understand. Yes, sir, I'll handle it. He hung up and looked at Victoria. Corporate wants to know if you're ready to apologize publicly. Apologize for what? I was just doing my job. Victoria, that man is worth more money than our entire company. And you embarrassed him in front of millions of people. Through the window, they watched as SpaceX engineers began unloading something from the truck. It was covered with a blue tarp, but it was clearly some kind of vehicle. What do you think? That is, Lisa asked. I don't want to know, Victoria replied, but she couldn't stop watching. Elon pulled out his phone and called Sarah. How's the stock price? Tesla is down to $14 per share. Lowest it's ever been. Perfect. Perfect? Boss, that means the company is almost worthless. Which means it can only go up from here. At 11 a.m., Elon walked to the center of the crowd. Reporters pushed their microphones toward him. Cameras flashed like lightning. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon said, his voice carrying over the noise. 2 weeks ago, I walked into that store behind me. He pointed at the Cartier store. I asked to see a watch. The manager told me I couldn't afford it. The crowd murmured. Everyone had seen the video. She was right, Elon continued. At that moment, I couldn't afford that watch. Tesla was almost bankrupt. SpaceX had failed 3 rocket launches. I had put every dollar I owned into companies that might fail. Victoria pressed her face against the store window, listening to every word. "But here's the thing about being told you can't do something," Elon said, his voice getting stronger. "It makes you want to prove them wrong." He gestured to the covered vehicle behind him. "So I decided to show that store manager and everyone else what happens when you underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose." The crowd was completely silent now. Even the helicopters seemed quieter. "Today, I'm going to buy that watch," Elon announced. "But first, I'm going to show you why Tesla isn't just a car company." He nodded to Tom Mueller, who pulled a rope. The blue tarp fell away. The crowd gasped. Sitting on the truck was the most impossible thing anyone had ever seen. A red Tesla Roadster with 4 rocket engines mounted underneath. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elon said with a huge smile, "meet the world's first flying car." The crowd erupted. People screamed and pointed. Reporters started talking rapidly into their cameras. "This is impossible," someone shouted. "Impossible is just another word for untried," Elon replied. Inside the Cartier store, Victoria Chin fainted. James Wright caught her just before she hit the floor. "Lisa," James said urgently, "get some water and call an ambulance." I think our day just got a lot more complicated. Outside, Elon was just getting started. "In 60 seconds, he announced to the crowd, "This car is going to fly. Not far, not high, but it's going to prove that the future doesn't have to wait for permission." A reporter shouted, "Mr. Musk, is this safe?" "Probably not," Elon replied honestly. "But neither was the first airplane, or the first rocket, or the first electric car." He looked directly at the Cartier store, where Victoria was slowly waking up with James fanning her face. "Sometimes," Elon said, loud enough for her to hear through the glass, "you have to do something impossible just to remind people what possible looks like." The SpaceX engineers rolled the flying car down a ramp onto Rodeo Drive. The crowd backed away, giving it space. Police officers looked nervous but didn't interfere. Elon walked over to the car and opened the door. There was only one seat now. Everything else had been removed to make room for fuel and computers. "Mr. Musk," a reporter called, "what if this doesn't work?" Elon paused with one foot in the car. "Then at least we tried something magnificent." He looked back at the Cartier store one more time. Victoria was standing at the window now, her face pressed against the glass. "Ma'am," he called out to her, his voice carrying over the crowd, "this one's for you." He got in the car and closed the door. Through the windows, people could see him strapping himself in and checking instruments. The crowd held its breath. Victoria Chun whispered, "What have I done?" Victoria Chun stood frozen at the window, watching Elon Musk prepare to do the impossible. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. "James," she whispered to her boss, "he's really going to try to fly that car." "This is insane," James replied. "People don't fly cars. That's not how the world works." But through the window, they could see SpaceX engineers doing final checks on the rocket engines. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a movie. This was really happening. Outside, the crowd had grown to over 500 people. News helicopters circled overhead like metal birds. Police had blocked off 3 blocks of Rodeo Drive. The mayor of Beverly Hills stood behind the police tape, watching in amazement. Inside the flying car, Elon was going through his checklist. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. Everything he had worked for his entire life came down to the next 60 seconds. His radio crackled. Tom Mueller's voice, "Boss, all systems green. You ready?" "Ready," Elon replied. "Remember, we're going for a hover at 10 feet for 1 minute. Don't try to be a hero." "When have I ever tried to be a hero?" Elon asked. "Every day since I've known you," Tom replied. Elon smiled. He looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of people with their phones pointed at him. Millions more watching on live TV. This was either going to be the greatest moment of his life or the most embarrassing. "Tom, start the countdown." 10 seconds to ignition, Tom announced over the loudspeaker. The crowd went silent. Even the helicopters seemed to hover more quietly. 9, 8, 7. Victoria pressed her hands against the window. "Please don't crash," she whispered. "Please don't die because of me." 6, 5, 4. Elon closed his eyes and thought about his children. If this went wrong, they might grow up without a father. But if it went right, they might grow up in a world where impossible things happened every day. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. For rocket engines fired at once. The noise was unbelievable. Like thunder and earthquakes and dragons all roaring at the same time. The ground shook. Car alarms went off for blocks. Some people in the crowd covered their ears and screamed. But the car rose, slowly, impossibly, beautifully. The red Tesla Roadster lifted off the asphalt of Rodeo Drive. 1 foot, 2 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet. The crowd erupted in cheers so loud they almost drowned out the rocket engines. "It's flying," someone screamed. "That's impossible," shouted another. Victoria stared in complete shock. A car was flying outside her store. An actual car was floating in the air like magic. The Roadster hovered perfectly steady at exactly 10 feet above the ground. Elon could see everything from up there, the amazed faces in the crowd, the news cameras recording history, and the Cartier store where it all began. 30 seconds passed. The car stayed perfectly level. 45 seconds. Still flying. 50 seconds. The engines were working perfectly. At exactly 60 seconds. Just as planned, the engines shut off. The car settled gently back down to the street. The crowd went absolutely crazy. People were jumping up and down, hugging strangers, crying with joy. News reporters were talking rapidly into their cameras. "This is impossible, but it just happened," one reporter said. "A Tesla just flew." Elon opened the car door and stepped out. The crowd rushed toward him, but police officers kept them back. He was grinning like a little kid who had just gotten the best Christmas present ever. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into a microphone that someone handed him, "that's why Tesla isn't just a car company. We're a future company." The crowd cheered again, but Elon wasn't finished. He walked toward the Cartier store, and the crowd followed him like he was leading a parade. Victoria saw him coming and felt like she might faint again. Elon pushed through the store's front door. The bell chimed softly, just like it had 2 weeks ago. But everything else was different now. Victoria stood behind the counter, her face red with embarrassment. James Wright stood beside her, looking like he wanted to hide under a rock. "Good morning," Elon said politely. "I'd like to see that watch again." Victoria's hands were shaking so badly she could barely open the display case. She pulled out the same $150,000 Santos Dumont watch she had shown him before. "Sir," Victoria said quietly, "I want to apologize for." Elon held up his hand. "Apology? Accepted. Now about that watch." He opened a briefcase he had been carrying. Inside were neat stacks of $100 bills. Victoria's eyes went wide. $150,000, Elon said. "Cash, just like you wanted to see 2 weeks ago." Victoria started counting the money with trembling fingers. It was all there, every single dollar. "Sir," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "the watch is yours." But Elon didn't take the watch. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone in the store. "I don't want the watch," he said. Victoria looked confused. You don't want it?" "No, I want to give it to someone else." "Who?" Elon looked directly at Victoria. "You." The entire store went silent. Outside, reporters pressed against the windows, trying to hear what was happening. "Me," Victoria whispered. "You," Elon confirmed. "Because you taught me something important." Victoria started to cry. "Sir, I was horrible to you. I judged you. I embarrassed you." "Yes, you did," Elon agreed. "But here's what you really taught me. You taught me that people judge others by how they look, not by who they are. Poor kids get ignored. Smart kids get bullied. People with big dreams get laughed at." He paused, looking at Victoria's tears. "But you know what? Your opinion of me doesn't change who I am. And my success doesn't depend on your approval." Victoria was crying so hard she could barely speak. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything." "Being wrong isn't the worst thing," Elon said gently. "The worst thing is not learning from it." He pushed the briefcase full of money across the counter. "Take the money. Buy the watch. And every time you look at it, remember that you can't judge a person's worth by their clothes or their car or how much money they appear to have." Victoria stared at the money. "Sir, I can't accept this. It's too much." "You can accept it," Elon said. "And you will. Because this isn't just about you and me anymore." James Wright stepped forward. "Mr. Musk, this is incredibly generous." "It's not generous," Elon replied. "It's necessary. You see, what happened here 2 weeks ago wasn't really about a watch. It was about respect. about treating every person like they matter, regardless of how they look. Outside, the crowd was getting restless. They could see something important happening through the windows, but they couldn't hear the words. Victoria, Elon continued, I want you to wear this watch every day. And when people ask you about it, I want you to tell them the story. Tell them about the day you judged someone by their appearance and learned to never do it again. Victoria nodded through her tears. I will. I promise I will. And one more thing, Elon said with a smile. When young people come into this store, kids who look different or dress differently or seem like they don't belong, I want you to treat them like they might be the next person to change the world. Because they might be. Because they definitely will be. Elon turned to leave, but Victoria called after him. Mr. Musk, wait. Why are you really doing this? After how I treated you, why are you being so kind? Elon stopped at the door and looked back at her. Because, Victoria, I learned something important when I was a kid. When someone is mean to you, you have two choices. You can be mean back, or you can be so kind it changes them forever. He smiled. I chose kindness. As Elon walked out of the store, the crowd erupted in cheers again. But Victoria barely heard them. She was staring at the most expensive watch in the world, now sitting on her wrist. James Wright put his hand on her shoulder. Victoria, I think your life just changed. Everything changed, she whispered. Everything. When Elon walked back outside, the crowd exploded with cheers and questions. Reporters pushed microphones toward his face from every direction. Mr. Musk, how long have you been planning this? Is Tesla really making flying cars? When will they be available to buy? Elon raised his hand for quiet. The crowd slowly settled down, but hundreds of phones were still recording every word. 2 weeks ago, Elon began. A store manager told me I couldn't afford a watch. She was right. At that moment, I couldn't afford much of anything. He gestured toward the Cartier store, where Victoria could be seen through the window, still staring at her new watch in amazement. But what she didn't understand is that being broke and being worthless are two different things. The crowd murmured agreement. Many of them had seen the original video and felt bad for Elon. Today wasn't about buying a watch, Elon continued. It wasn't even about proving that woman wrong. Today was about proving something much more important. A reporter called out, "What's that?" Elon smiled. That the future doesn't ask permission. He pointed to the flying Tesla, which SpaceX engineers were carefully loading back onto the truck. Smoke still rose from the rocket engines. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw was not a publicity stunt. It was a preview. A preview of what? Someone shouted. Of what happens when you refuse to accept impossible. The crowd was hanging on his every word. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live to millions of people around the world. But then Elon said something that shocked everyone. However, I have a confession to make. The crowd went quiet. The flying car you just saw? It's not ready for production. What we built in 3 weeks was a prototype. A very expensive, very dangerous prototype that we may never build again. Some people in the crowd looked disappointed. A few reporters started talking about failed promises and empty stunts. But Elon wasn't finished. The flying car was never the real point, he said. The real point was what happened while you were watching it. He pulled out his phone and showed the screen to the cameras. It displayed Tesla's stock price in real time. The numbers were incredible. When I arrived here this morning, Tesla stock was trading at $14 per share. The company was worth almost nothing. He paused, letting the suspense build. Right now, at this very moment, Tesla stock is trading at $42 per share. The crowd gasped. In just 2 hours, Tesla's value had tripled. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the real magic trick. A business reporter pushed forward. Mr. Musk, are you saying you manipulated your own stock price with a publicity stunt? I'm saying I showed the world what Tesla is really worth, Elon replied. When people see the impossible become possible, they start to believe that other impossible things might be possible too. Another reporter asked, but what about the flying car? Will Tesla customers ever be able to buy one? Elon's smile became mysterious. Let me ask you something. If you saw a Tesla fly through the air, how much would you pay for Tesla stock? More than before, the reporter admitted. And how much would you pay for a regular Tesla car, knowing it came from a company that can make cars fly? Also more. Then, the flying car already did its job. The crowd was starting to understand. This wasn't just about one impossible demonstration. It was about changing how people thought about Tesla forever. But there's more. Elon said that he pulled out another document from his briefcase. This one had official government seals and signatures. While you were watching our flying car, something else happened. NASA called. The crowd leaned forward. They've been watching SpaceX's progress for months. Our rocket engines, our computer systems, our ability to do the impossible on short deadlines. Elon held up the document. NASA just awarded SpaceX a contract for the first private mission to Mars. Real astronauts, real spacecraft, real trip to another planet. The crowd went absolutely crazy. People were jumping up and down, screaming, crying with excitement. This was bigger than a flying car. This was the future of space exploration. So you see, Elon said over the noise, today wasn't about revenge or publicity or even saving Tesla. Today was about proving that when people say something can't be done, they might be wrong. A young reporter, barely out of college, raised her hand. Mr. Musk, what's next? What other impossible things are you planning? Elon looked thoughtful. Well, we're going to build a tunnel under Los Angeles to solve traffic. We're going to create cars that drive themselves. We're going to put 1 million people on Mars within 20 years. The reporter laughed. Those all sound impossible. So did flying cars, Elon replied. Until about an hour ago. As the crowd began to disperse, several investors pushed through to talk to Elon. Word was spreading through the financial world that Tesla had just proven it wasn't just a car company. It was an innovation company that could turn science fiction into reality. Mr. Musk, said a man in an expensive suit, I represent a group of investors. We'd like to discuss putting $50 million into Tesla. 50 million? Elon asked. To start. If today proved anything, it's that betting against Elon Musk is a losing proposition. More investors approached. By the end of the day, Elon had commitments for over $200 million in new funding. Tesla wasn't just saved. It was set up to dominate the electric car market for decades. But the biggest surprise was still coming as the news crews were packing up their equipment. A black limousine pulled up to the curb. Out stepped a woman in a NASA uniform with stars on her shoulders. Mr. Musk, she said, walking over to him. I'm Administrator Sarah Johnson from NASA headquarters. Administrator Johnson, Elon replied, shaking her hand. I wasn't expecting you. We weren't expecting a flying car on Rodeo Drive either. But Mr. Musk, we've been watching your progress for months. SpaceX has failed 3 launches, but each failure taught you something new. That's the plan. Your 4th launch is scheduled for next month. If it succeeds, when it succeeds, Elon corrected. When it succeeds, NASA is prepared to award SpaceX the largest contract in our history. Not just a trip to Mars, but the development of all future spacecraft for human exploration. Elon's eyes went wide. This was bigger than he had dared to dream. How much? He asked. $2 billion. Over 10 years. The few remaining reporters who overheard this nearly fainted. This wasn't just a successful day. This was the beginning of a space revolution. There's just one condition, Administrator Johnson added. What's that? We want to know if you can make our spacecraft fly as smoothly as you made that car fly. Today, Elon grinned. Administrator, by the time we're done, your astronauts are going to feel like they're riding in a luxury car. A luxury car that happens to be traveling to Mars. As the NASA administrator walked back to her limousine, Elon looked around Rodeo Drive one more time. This morning, he had been a failed entrepreneur sleeping on a factory couch. Tonight, he was the man who had made a car fly and secured the future of space exploration. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother Kimball. Saw the news. Mom would be proud. Another text from his ex-wife Justine. The boys are so excited. They think their dad is a superhero. And one final text from Sarah Rodriguez. Boss, Tesla stock just hit $50 per share. We did it. Elon looked back. At the Cartier store, Victoria Chun was still inside, probably trying to process everything that had happened. She had no idea that her cruel comment 2 weeks ago had started a chain reaction that would change the world. Sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest consequences. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest gift you can receive. And sometimes, when everyone tells you something is impossible, the best response is to make it happen anyway. That evening, Elon returned to Tesla headquarters in Fremont. The factory was buzzing with excitement. Workers who had been worried about their jobs that morning were now celebrating. News trucks filled the parking lot. Everyone wanted to interview the man who had made a car fly, but Elon walked straight past the reporters to the factory floor. His team was waiting for him, the engineers, designers, and dreamers who had believed in the impossible. "Boss," Marcus Johnson called out, running over with a huge smile. "Did you see the stock price? We're saved." "We're more than saved," Elon replied. "We're set for the next decade." Sarah Rodriguez appeared with a stack of papers. "Boss, I've got good news and amazing news." Amazing news first. 3 major car companies called today. They want to license Tesla's electric technology. Ford, Toyota, and BMW all want meetings next week. And the good news: we can pay everyone's salary tomorrow, with bonuses. The factory erupted in cheers. Workers who had been scared they might lose their jobs were now looking at overtime pay and Christmas bonuses. But Elon asked everyone to gather around for a meeting. As his team assembled, he looked at each face. These people had trusted him when no one else would. They had worked for months without knowing if they would get paid. They deserved to know the truth. "I need to tell you something," Elon began, "about what really happened today." The crowd got quiet. Even the reporters outside couldn't hear through the factory walls. The flying car demonstration, Elon continued, was not exactly what it seemed. Some people looked worried. Had something gone wrong? "Tom," Elon called to his SpaceX engineer, "tell them how long we actually spent designing the flying car." Tom Mueller stepped forward. "About 6 months." The Tesla workers looked confused. "But boss," Marcus said, "you told us we built it in 3 weeks." "We did build it in 3 weeks," Elon clarified. "But we've been planning it for 6 months." Sarah's eyes went wide. "Boss, are you saying the whole thing was planned? Even before the watch store incident?" Elon smiled mysteriously. "Sarah, do you remember what I was doing the day before I went to that Cartier store? You were meeting with investors. They said Tesla needed something dramatic to get attention. And what did I tell you after that meeting?" Sarah thought for a moment. "You said you had an idea. A crazy idea that might save the company." "The flying car," Elon confirmed. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was starting to understand. "But boss," Tom Mueller said slowly, "if you already had the plan, why did you need that store manager to insult you?" Elon's smile got bigger. "Who says I needed her to insult me?" He walked to a whiteboard and drew a timeline. December 7th. Investors tell me Tesla needs a miracle. December 8th. I start planning Project Impossible. December 9th. I visit the Cartier store. He paused, letting that sink in. "Wait," said Hans Koenigsmann from SpaceX. "Boss, are you telling us you went to that store on purpose? Knowing she would insult you?" "I did research," Elon explained. Victoria Chun had a reputation for being rude to customers who didn't look wealthy. 3 online reviews mentioned it. "I wore my oldest clothes. I messed up my hair. I made sure I looked like someone she would judge." The room was stunned. Marcus raised his hand like he was in school. "So the whole thing was fake?" "No," Elon said firmly. "The insult was real. Her meanness was real. My embarrassment was real. And my anger was definitely real." "Then what was fake?" "Nothing was fake. But everything was planned." Gwynne Shotwell from SpaceX spoke up. "Boss, you're saying you manipulated that woman into insulting you so you could use it as motivation for the flying car?" "I'm saying I created a story so powerful that everyone would remember it forever." He drew more on the whiteboard. "Think about it. If I had just announced Tesla is building a flying car, what would have happened?" "People would have said it was impossible," Tom replied. "And they would have been right to doubt us. But when I announced it as revenge against someone who insulted me, when I made it personal, people wanted you to succeed," Sarah said, understanding now. "Exactly. Instead of crazy billionaire builds useless flying car, the story became underdog fights back against cruel treatment." The team was amazed. This wasn't just engineering genius. This was psychology genius. "But boss," Marcus asked, "what about the money? You said Tesla was broke." "Tesla was broke. That part was completely true. We really did need $40 million by Christmas, or we would have shut down. So how does this help?" Elon pointed to his phone, showing Tesla's stock price. "When people believe in your story, they believe in your company. When they believe in your company, they invest money." "And the NASA contract?" Hans asked. "That was the real goal all along. NASA doesn't give contracts to companies that build normal rockets. They give contracts to companies that do impossible things and make them look easy. Tom Mueller was putting the pieces together. So the flying car wasn't really about transportation. It was about proving we could solve impossible problems. And proving it in the most dramatic way possible, Elon added. Sarah looked amazed and a little concerned. Boss, this is brilliant. But it's also kind of scary. You manipulated millions of people's emotions. Did I? Elon asked. Or did I give them something they desperately wanted to see? What's that? Proof that impossible things can happen. Proof that underdogs can win. Proof that the future doesn't have to wait for permission from experts and committees. He looked around at his team. Everyone in this room works here because they believe impossible things can become real. Electric cars that outperform gas cars. Rockets that land themselves. Tunnels that solve traffic. Colonies on Mars. The team nodded. It was true. The flying car wasn't a trick, Elon continued. It was a promise. A promise that everything we're working on, every impossible dream in this factory, can become real if we work hard enough and refuse to give up. A young engineer named David Kim raised his hand. Boss, what about Victoria-chan? Did you plan to give her the watch too? Elon's expression became serious. No, that was real. When I saw her crying, when I realized how badly my plan had hurt her personally, I knew I had to make it right, even though she insulted you, especially because she insulted me. David, revenge makes you feel good for about 5 minutes. Kindness makes you feel good for the rest of your life. The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this. Finally, Tom Mueller asked the question everyone was thinking. Boss, what happens now? You've proven you can make cars fly. You've saved Tesla. You've got the NASA contract. What's next? Elon smiled and walked to the window. Outside, the first Tesla Roadsters ever made sat in the parking lot. Electric cars that people said would never work. Dreams that had become reality. Now we get back to work, he said. We've got a planet to save and another planet to reach. We've got tunnels to dig and cars to perfect. We've got a future to build. And if people say it's impossible, Elon turned back to his team. Then we'll remember the day we made a car fly on Rodeo Drive. We'll remember that impossible is just another word for untested. And we'll prove them wrong. Marcus grinned. One impossible thing at a time. One impossible thing at a time. Elon agreed that as the team began to disperse, Sarah stayed behind. Boss, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you ever feel bad about manipulating the situation with Victoria, even if it worked out in the end? Elon thought about it. Sarah, I learned something important today. The best plans aren't about controlling what happens. They're about being ready for whatever happens. What do you mean? I planned to get insulted. In that store, I planned to build a flying car. I planned to create a story people would remember. But I didn't plan to learn about kindness from someone I thought was my enemy. He picked up the picture of his children from his desk. Victoria-chan taught me that winning isn't about proving you're better than someone else. It's about becoming better than you used to be. Sarah smiled. So what did you become? Elon looked out at the factory floor, where his impossible dreams were being built piece by piece. Someone who makes the impossible look easy, he said. And someone who remembers that the most important thing isn't what you can do to your enemies. What is it? It's what you can do for your friends. And sometimes, your worst enemy can become your best teacher. 6 months later, Victoria-chan would quit her job at Cartier and start a consulting company called Possible Dreams. She would help young entrepreneurs who looked different, dressed differently, or had ideas that seemed crazy. Her business card would have a picture of a flying car on it, and every day, she would wear the most expensive watch in the world, not because it was beautiful, but because it reminded her that you should never judge someone by how they look, because the person you underestimate today might be the person who changes the world tomorrow. Now, I'm curious, where are you listening to this story from? Are you at home, in your car, or maybe walking somewhere amazing? Drop a comment below and let us know what country or city you're in. We love hearing from our listeners around the world. If this story inspired you or made you think differently about treating others with kindness, please hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories about people who refuse to accept impossible. We share new stories every week about dreamers, innovators, and everyday heroes who changed the world. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. Stories like this remind us all to be kinder to each other and to never give up on our dreams. You never know, Your kindness today might inspire someone to do something extraordinary tomorrow. Thanks for listening, and remember, impossible is just another word for untested. See you in the next story.